From the heart of the world, are you listening and enjoying Google Radio? No matter what, keep your faith and values. Keep your trust and empathy. Google Radio, the voice of future.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome, Gomer. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience, please? Go ahead.
Thank you, Simon Basha. My name is Gomer Lafou. I'm the current youth president of Equatoria Community in Victoria, known as SOSI Incorporated.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about the Equatorial community in Melbourne? How it look like the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So the community in itself had been operating for over 20 years. It was first established in the early 2000s for many reasons. One of them being the idea that the community wanted to give access to people who were coming from war-torn countries, such as East African countries, to be specific, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and the Horn of and basically the East African countries. There are a lot of us who are coming into this country, and those who were already established thought it would be wise to have a community that could help support, rehabilitate individuals and families into the society that they were already staying in. So that was one of the very establishments and functions of the community. Then it morphed into various entities and various objectives over its 20-year period.
Yes, wonderful. Can you give me, please, how was your experience with Equatorial activities? For how long? How many years of experience?
Yeah, well, my experience varies. As a youth worker, I had worked as a youth worker in the mid 2000s and mid 2015s, but I started working with youth professionally from the period of 2013. So I'm a accredited professional youth worker, and I varied on and ventured to different professionals. But in the context of community work, I had been doing community work for almost over a decade as of current. But my inclusion and also my participation as far as the Equatorial community is concerned here became more very explicit in nature towards the middle of last year. I was called upon by the community to come and revive the youth office, which we have been doing quite so effectively and successfully.
Yes, wonderful. Can you tell me the achievement you achieved during your leadership now as youth chairman in Equatorial Community, Melbourne, Victoria?
Absolutely. As far as achievements, we've achieved so many things.
Yes.
One of the things that we have achieved is the reintegration and the restoration of young people in the community. In the past, to give you context, our community had been exhausted for many years without a functional youth office. So coming into the department, the executive department of Equatorial Community, I was able to mobilize young people to be able to take ownership of the youth office. Not only so, but we were also able to begin to run youth programs. That is something that had not been done at the scale that we are doing it currently. For example, we had successful youth workshops. The last one we did was about 3 months ago or 4 months ago. We had over 50 to 100 people come to that program. And that is a success in itself because a youth workshop, to get young people to come to events at a community level is very difficult, but
Yes,
we've managed to achieve that. Another achievement I can say is we've managed to mobilize young people to be more actively engaged in the community. We also had road trips, not only for young people, but also for young children. That is quite important because as we believe that young people are the future, we must begin to invest in them. And we must rightly do so, beginning from the resources that we have. So we've achieved so many things. Another thing we've achieved also is we currently run a leadership advanced program in which we teach leadership, because one of the key elements of any successful community is to have its leadership being taught from a young age. Therefore, bridging the gap later on when generational exits do happen, such as the elderly retire, young people must be able to have that energy and have that drive and have that passion and have that desire to be able to lead on with the guidance of the older generation. So that is one thing we have within this leadership program. We have over 15 students going on. We do teach leadership on a fortnightly basis, and I can go into the depth of that conversation perhaps later on. Another successful achievement we've done is we've managed to run majority of the community events. That is something that has never happened to the scale that we are doing it. Young people are quite eager to participate, not only at a leadership level, but also at a volunteer basis. We see that happening when we have events, for example, when we have events of happiness and when we have events of sadness. An example of that, as we have seen, unfortunately, is when we have funerals. Young people are the one running the show, from traffic control to welcoming people to hosting the programs. This empowers young people to take responsibility, knowing that the aging population of the community is also morphing into senior citizens, but also knowing that young people can actually take on responsibilities at a quite young age. We see that also happening with our upcoming gala. We saw that happen last year with Equatorial Day, one of the most successful Equatorial Day that has ever happened in over a decade. Young people took initiative to lead that program, from organizing, from leading, from empowering young people by giving them volunteer awards, and majority of them were young people. That is to show that young people are capable, and we must also appreciate and reward them for their hard work. So these are just examples I can give you, and I believe you'll be able to dive into
Yes,
it later.
thank you very much for that. Just my question is still continue about your leadership as well, because you said talking about the young people as a youth
Correct.
leader. This youth leader, all of them in Victoria, especially we are in the Victoria State, Melbourne, for example. We have a south east suburb, northern suburb, western suburb, something like that. All these youths coming together to work together under your leadership or not, or just few group of people living in the one area. Go ahead.
That's a very good question. When we look at leadership, leadership it's not exclusive in nature. Leadership is inclusive in nature. Therefore, I've made it possible, and I've made it a mandate and a policy of my leadership to make sure that we have branches of young people from different parts of Victoria, being part of the leadership team and also being part of the volunteering team. For example, we have people who actually live in the western suburb who are part of our leadership team. I can go into details to recognize some of them. For example, William Oja, who is from Madi community. He is an excellent leader who is actually part of our leadership team. We also have Vicky Phillips, who is from the western suburb, who is actually another great example, who runs our social media pages and groups. So these are just a few examples that I can give you, that we have a variety of leaders well across distributed Victoria. And not only that, we have even different leaders from different entire groups of the Equatorial region to make sure that different voices are heard, and not only different voices are heard, but different voices are also empowered, in that they would learn and they will be able to take it back to their root, to their grassroots in terms of their community initiative, and be able to empower their youth office and their youth departments in those very varied areas of life, for example. So our department in terms of youth leadership is quite diverse. We have people from the ages of 16, 17 to all the way to the ages of 25, 26, 27, 28, even as old as 29. And that shows you that we are very diverse and we are quite welcoming. If anyone is interested in joining our leadership team, they're more than welcome to join. If you believe you have the capacity to lead, or you have professional experience in leadership and you like to contribute to the community, you're most welcome. But even if so, you don't have the experience, you're most welcome to join our leadership course, and that is free of charge, of course. The community does not charge anyone to come and join our leadership program.
Yes,
Just an example.
Yes, that is, thank you very much for that. Just I get some messages from people, random people asking. You say the Equatorial community, all the activities of Equatorial community just is stuck in southeast suburb.
Sure.
They don't say any influence of Equatorial community active in western suburb or northern suburb as well.
Sure.
So what do you think about it as a youth chairman?
Yeah, absolutely. As I've said it in the past, when we have programs, of course, one thing I will be honest and I will tell you truthfully is that we have a large population of people living in the southeast. That is something we cannot deny. That is something that is true and in its entirety. However, one of the things that we're already working in plans with our leadership team is to organize a program in the West that might happen towards the end of November, December, or early January. It's still working in the books, but we're working towards making
Gomer,
that happen.
Gomer, wait a moment, because there is something here. It is not clear for this question. He said because the activities in southeast suburb, but you didn't see any, for example, any meeting for Equatorial community calling for General Assembly since the office is created, use or whatever. The people doesn't see any General Assembly because there is a lot of questioning for the main board of Equatorial community in Melbourne, Victoria, including youth community as well, school leaders as well, to answer this question: why delay the meeting of what do you call the General Assembly for the Equatorial community? Because there's a lot of questions people need to ask about the same thing I'm asking you now about it. Okay,
Absolutely.
go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. I think I would take it one step at a time, and I hope you have
Yeah.
ample time for me to be able to answer those questions.
Oh yeah.
Of course, it's valid that people have many questions. Now, to answer the first question, do we have programs that are geared or planned towards Western suburb? Yes, we do. I've already talked with my leadership team as of last week, and we're planning a program. That program might happen, as I stated earlier on, it might happen towards the end of December, or it might happen towards early January, depending on what's going on. We do have two flagship events that will happen. Obviously, as you've come across, and many people are aware of the Youth Gala that is coming up. Our first ever Equatorial Youth Gala that will be happening on the 13th of December. Okay, and then followed by that, we will be having on the 27th of December Equatoria Day. Now, when it comes to why haven't we had any General Assembly, I may defer that question to the executive office, but I will also try to answer it to the best of my ability, as people are asking for that question. We're already working towards organizing a General Assembly. However, the date has not been scheduled as of yet. We've already had a leadership meeting at the executive level to decide when that will happen. When that happens, we will communicate that exactly to the community via our WhatsApp channels and also via our other social media forums. So there is no reason for people to doubt that whether we will have a General Assembly or not. It is on the works. However, we're trying to secure venues and we're trying to secure a specific time frame that would be suitable for everyone. And also, once I believe the executive office has satisfied certain compliance and auditing requests that we're still working on, we'll be able to call for a general assembly and then obviously conduct and fulfill and answer any questions that people might be asking for.
All right, let's go to short break and then back shortly. And then
with years of experience, Google Radio has been broadcasting live 24/7, promoting culture and identity while empowering people to embrace their heritage and traditions across the nation. Google Radio, the voice of the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Gomer.
You're welcome.
Chairman, Youth Melbourne, Victoria. Equatorial community. I have just very simple question. I need to ask about the youth violence in Victoria, especially in Melbourne general. You heard what happened in our community as a South Sudanese in general. There is a lot of things happen no good. People kill each others. There is a lot of gangs going in the street. And we can't just press these all things in line like this. As youth leader, what your rule you apply to convince the youth to change their behavior? I'm not saying just particularly in the Equatorial community, in South Sudanese in general. Go ahead.
Absolutely. To answer your question, I would be very specific and I'll be very broad at the same time. When it comes to combating youth violence in the context of South Sudanese community in general, the first thing is we would have to ask ourselves is that are we really honest with the current state of affairs that we have going on with the youth, for example? One of the things that we must understand, Simon, and people who are asking these questions in general, is that youth violence is not something new. Okay, when we look at youth violence, it is quite common everywhere, in every society, in every civilization, in every in every environment. There's always youth violence. Why is there youth violence? There are many reasons. I will not delve into those very reasons, but I will come back to my point instead of derailing and going to other things. How can we combat youth violence within the context of South Sudanese community, and more so precisely myself representing the youth, Equatoria youth? The first thing I would like to say is that parents must take ownership of their children from a very young age. Okay, that is one way to combat youth violence, because the way somebody is raised, the way somebody is disciplined at home, is also a reflection of what happens outside. Now, I'm not saying that all the young people who are engaged in youth violence, their parents have not tried their best. They might have tried their best. However, maybe the knowledge and the skills of parenting may have been outdated. What do I mean by that? I'm a youth chairman or youth president. I have interactions with a lot of young people. And one thing that is quite consistent in most of their answers, as far as why they engage at times in these extreme behaviors of risk, is the fact that they say, according to them, they don't get enough attention, for example, from home. Now, I'm not saying what I'm saying is right. Don't quote me on that. But I'm just giving you opinions of young people who I've interacted with and whom I've seen struggle with such kind of behaviors. So that brings us to question the level of parenting that we have. For example, the amount of time that we spend with our children, because children, as the older they get, the less control we have of them. They spend 8 hours at work, outside the scope of work. I mean, sorry, not work. They spend 8 hours at school, outside the scope of school time. When they come home, by the time they arrive home and by the time you're coming from work, you may not have enough time to spend with them. That's another additional time they're spending with their friends online, through playing games or through social media interaction and so on and so on. And then on top of that, when they go outside to the outside world, they also get their own dose of influence. So my advice would be to parents is try to spend as much as time with your children, not when they are 15 or when they are 20. It's a bit too late at that age. Start when they're quite younger. And for those who have arrived at this age, try to figure out how can you befriend your children, because by befriending your children, you can learn a lot of things from them. That's one. Number two, you can also try to understand what they're going through. Young people these days are not interested in seeing you say, well, I've done this for you and I've done that for you, therefore you should listen or whatever. Sometimes they just want you to listen to them. Okay. Now, from a community perspective, what are we doing to help curb youth violence? Unfortunately, at the community level, when we reach the community height, we tend to find that at times it is a bit too late. Now, it doesn't rule out the fact that we also have hope, because what we've been able to achieve as a youth office in the last 8 to 12 months has been remarkable, nothing short of remarkable. The reason why I say that is because we've seen a large number of young people interact with the community as have never been seen before, and I'm sure you're a witness to that when you attended our Equatorial Day last year and a few other programs in between. So young people need to be kept busy. Okay, that's why we run programs for them. But we are not keeping them busy for the sake of keeping them busy. We must keep them busy with an intent. And what is that intent? For me personally, I've come into the youth office knowing that at some point I will exit. At some point I will have to hand over the leadership to someone. That is my mindset at the end of the day.
Yes.
Okay. So in the process of having that mindset and having that idea, then the question becomes, what am I doing to make sure that the community is sustainable once our executive office, for example, exits, or when myself exits, for example? That is why we came up with the self advanced leadership program, we realize that there is a leadership gap. And I would ask you, for example, Simon Basha, who's much older than me, and I'm sure you've been engaged with the Equatorial community for many years. I've seen you, from FECA to Google Radio now. Congrats to you. But an example of, for the last 20 years plus, Simon, I've only come to know, to the best of my knowledge, that there has only been about 2 youth office that has existed in the history of Equatorial community. The question I would ask everyone out here, and the question I would ask you, or particularly those who are also asking questions, in all these 20 plus years, why has it only been two terms or 2 tenures of Equatorial youth leadership? That is a question a lot of people are not able to answer.
Yes,
in 20
absolutely.
years,
Yes.
well, in 20 years, we've had two youth offices, but even with those 2 youth offices, I can't judge what they've done, but I can say that there is not much
Yes.
that they can demonstrate.
Yes.
So
Go
my
ahead.
question here is,
Mhm.
why at this point in time, or at that point in time, did the community neglect the youth so long and for so much? Then at the end of the day, they want things to be microwaved.
Okay.
They want things to be hurried.
I understand what you're coming from. The reason you said 20
But
years, I think just let
20
me
years
give you a
plus.
little bit. Yeah.
But I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, I know. I understand that.
Yeah.
Just I want to say, clarify something very important for
Yeah.
our audience now watching us live stream. For 20 years, there is a lot of change happen. The community is not like this. The first people group, first generation came. It's not like your generation now acting in
Correct.
the office. Everything, any generation have a different style of leadership or something like that. Maybe that time people still no understanding what is going on. Thank you very much for this question. So for clarify this answer for this question, where when we come in the beginning is very difficult because people come from the different places, especially people come from Egypt, people come from the Middle East, especially from Lebanon, Syria. Also, people come from Kakuma, Kenya, from Uganda, from Ethiopia. They come together as Equatorian come here, this country, with different mentality. They
Yes.
make it harder to people understand each other. There is a fighting, people hit each other, say, "Itamul nafsak, ita jay min nas ta wunus Arabi, lokat Arabia, you're very good," something like that. And there is fighting between people, but people started and until now, but now everything is fixed and then everything's come in track. That's why you are in the right time, your leadership in the right time. People, everything is secure now.
The point that I'm trying to say is, Simon, it's not
Yes.
that why I know the reason why I'm asking the question, because we already discovered the answer.
Yeah.
The question is very simple in the sense that when Equatorial community, for example, establishes an executive office, surely they would know that a large population of their people would be from youth. So in those 20 years plus, I've only identified almost 2 offices that youth have had.
Yes,
But
absolutely. I agree with you.
But the executive office, the women's chairmanship, or the treasurer, or the secretary general, the deputy chairman, those specific departments within the executive office existed, but not the youth office. Therefore, leaving a very big gap, and
Yeah, I
those
understand.
big gap manifest in many
Yes,
ways.
yeah, I understand that. Thank you very much. You mentioned that question twice. I apologize as well for the audience.
No, it's good.
The history can tell himself, because everything in the beginning is difficult. People
Correct.
can face a lot of challenge. People don't understand each other, something like that. We agree with that. Okay, let us go to short break again. We can come back.
Absolutely.
Different episodes.
I hope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are, you're listening to Google Radio 24/7 from Yambio, Juba, to Reet, the voice of the future.
Thank you very much. Before we're handing our program, fantastic. You answer a lot of questions today. So the thing I'm going to talk about it, we need to address something really specific about the youth in Melbourne, Victoria in general.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of complaint from a lot of families as well. When the children, when the kids, the young kids, especially the high school, go to the shopping, whatever is a South Sudanese, they see them is going to steal, or the people looking for them suspicious. For this attitude is make us is very harder. As a youth chairman, what do you want to address this issue like this? When you see anyone like is suspicious, say, oh, this one come to the store is going to steal it. Especially our youth go to shopping center, whatever is any place in Melbourne now affected our youth. This is the part of the bullying as well. Make them very frustrated. Can you address these things clearly, please? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question, Mr. Simon Basha. As far as young people going to shopping centers or complexes, we have to understand one thing as Africans: we're already a target. Okay, whether you're from Equatorial region, whether you're from Barkazal region, whether you're from Upper Nile, it doesn't matter where you're from. As long as you have black skin, you're always and have been and will continue to be a target to specific entities that unfortunately are in charge of certain places. Okay, we live in a country that is run by white people. Let's be honest. You come to a place whereby the place is being run by white people. Of course, there is racism. We don't deny that there isn't any. But one advice I can give you to answer the question instead of beating around the bush is very simple. The way you dress is the way people address you. Okay, our young people. I'm not saying that the way they dress is a bad thing, but if you're wearing a hoodie, you're wearing all black, you have glasses on, black glasses on. This is the type of dressing that is already profiled. That is quite obvious. I can wear a hoodie myself. I can wear black pants. I'm not saying that you can't wear those things, but if you're going to wear those things, just make sure you at least mentally accept that you're going to be a target. Okay. Our young people currently, and I interact a lot with them, they tend to wear one color of outfit. For those who are Arabic speakers, for example, أولاد بتاعنا وبنات بتاعنا بس بلبس يعني هدوم بس واحد, same color, and that to the greater population that is within the context of Australia, they find that very suspicious. If someone is walking around the shopping center or walking around the neighborhood with a hoodie on, they're wearing dark, they're not even saying hello to people. For example, I'm not saying that you have to go out of your way to say hello to people, but it brings question mark to you. What are you doing? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I may encourage our young people, please try to dress a bit more. I'm not saying go out of your way to wear a suit like the way I'm wearing or the way you're wearing. No, that's not the point. People have different fashion tastes. People have different ways of dressing. But perhaps if you're gonna wear a black jumper or hoodie, maybe wear a lighter pants color. Maybe gray, maybe cream, maybe red, maybe blue. I don't know. Whatever works for you. Okay. Secondly, I know in our cultural norm, we like to be in groups. We like to sit together. We like to be very noisy at times. We go to a shopping center. We sit together. We order large amounts of food, and we make a lot of noise. When someone comes and tells us, "Hey, please, can you reduce the volume down? Who are you?" Blah 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 blah. We start to be very aggressive.
Yes.
The shopping center is a shared space. The makan nas kulu be used. Okay. So if you're in this kind of environments, please be mindful of your aware of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Sit with each other if you want to sit together. But don't exceed the level of noise that you will make, to the extent that when you are asked by a security guard, can you please reduce your volume down, you become aggressive. You begin to say, "Oh, you're being too racist. You're being too this." I'm sure if some group of other people are making the exact same amount of noise, they would be told also, "Please lower your voice down. There's kids here. There's elderly people. There's people with disabilities. Everybody's using the same space. Be mindful. Be understanding of your situation. And if you're so concerned about making noise and being behaving however you want to behave, why don't you just go home? Go home with your group of friends and go and sit in the garage and play video games there, for example. No one is going to judge you. If someone comes and tells you, "Hey, put your voice down," it will be within your rights to say, "Hey, It's still 5 p.m. It's not midnight. It's not 10 p.m. yet. You know, you can't tell me to be quiet, even though they can ask politely and say, hey, maybe we have a baby in the house, or our grandma is trying to sleep or whatever. They can ask you politely, hey, please, reduce the volume. But I'm sure
In the
no
public
one is,
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
yeah, no one is going to stop you from playing in your garage or being in your house, because that's your safe space. That is your place. So my advice to young people would be, number one, if you want people to respect you, if you want people to address you properly, dress the way you would like to be addressed. That is one. Number two, you must sometime, to a certain extent, behave like the Rome. There is a saying we all know, I'm sure everybody knows. When you're in Rome, you behave like Romans. You're in Australia, mate. As the way people would say it.
Yeah.
These people, they are quite what's the word? They're quite relaxed, but at times they're a bit crazy.
Yes, that's right.
You
And
know?
I need to add something about the student as well, especially student high school, whatever is, wear a uniform. They go to the shopping center, the same thing, especially our South Sudanese community. When you come to the shopping, people look them like suspicious. Whatever look great, but it's still
Yep.
people don't trust them. Looking, it's a violence. It's criminal. Looking as, but how can we go to defend ourselves? How can we advise ourselves to pull ourselves out from this situation? It's getting worse sometimes.
Simon, the truth of the matter is the damage has been done.
How we fix it? How can we fix it?
We're coming there. The issue is not fixing it immediately, because for example, when trust is broken, you don't expect someone to just come around and say, well, how can we fix it, and let's try to get along or whatever. Trust takes time to build, especially when it's been destroyed. What has happened in the context of Australian politics, or at least communal politics, uh, you know our young people have to take the brunt of certain responsibilities that comes with collective behavioral generalism. Which I'm trying to say is that in its simplest term is that when one person does one thing, it is usually associated with the group of the person who does it. For example, you're a black man, you do something, well, everybody's just going to say, well, every black person is like that. The same goes with
Yeah.
the groups of people who are dominated all over the world, anyways. But the same case doesn't happen to the Asians and other people, because they are much more economically empowered by their own people. That's one. Number two, they sit at a higher global, power structure. Therefore, their governments are able to step in and say, hey, you cannot mistreat our people, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in America, whether it's in Asia, even in Africa. Even in the African soil, we know that there are Asians that mistreat black people. But guess what? Because they are the investors, the government turn a blind eye towards them. So I think one thing we should do as black people, or as a community, is that when our young people are right, we should defend them. But when they are
Yes.
wrong, we should call them out on it. That is the biggest issue that we have as black people currently here.
Yeah. I
We're
think.
very we're I'm just gonna wrap up the point.
Yeah.
The point here that I'm trying to say is, Simon, we're very quick to say, well, what can we do? And we are victimizing ourselves so much that we forget that these kids also need to be called out. For example, if you go to a shopping center and you see these young people are misbehaving, I'm not saying that you should go and cuss them out or whatever, but if you know them, for example, you should go and talk to them in a very polite manner. Say, look, what you're doing is not right. If they're doing something wrong, but if they're doing nothing wrong, and they are being called out by security guards or by, you should step up to empower them, to give them self belief that if someone is doing something wrong to you, whether I'm from your tribe or not, as an elder or as a parent, I should step in. That's why our kids have a trust issue between us and them, because when they come to you at home and tell you this happened to me at school, you don't believe them. When you go to the shopping center and they get told that they did this, you believe the person first.
That's the problem. Yeah. That's the
Okay. So we need to have a sense of trust. Okay. If you see them doing wrong, you tell them, hey, you're doing something wrong. That's not right. correct them. But if they're doing something right and somebody's charging them for it, go and stop that person and give them a hard time also. Not in a very disrespectful way, but you have to be able to defend your own people. That's the only way. We have to do things collectively.
Yes, that's right.
The period of individualism has come to an end, as far as I'm concerned. What we are concerned with is communal, um, uh, communal safety. We are concerned with communal generational input and output, and therefore we must put our very best first. If we see our brightest being bullied, we should step in
Yes.
and stand with them, because that gives them self-confidence, that gives them self-belief, that allows them to say, well, you know what, Simon Basha is not my uncle, he's not my father, he's not my father's cousin, but the fact that he stood for me when I'm right, guess what, next time he's going to come forward and tell you if something is going wrong with him in his life. If he's suicidal, if he's going through depression, if he's going through some peer pressure, he will come and talk to you about it. Why? Because he believes that you stood out for him. And young people are tired of elderly people. I'm not coming for elderly people, but young people are tired of people being phonies, people being fake, people being all kinds of things. Okay? That's why we have to clean up all this mess. Why are we cleaning up this mess? Because we believe in young people, because we know that young people have the power to control and to hold their future and their destiny. But more importantly, if we want them to change, we must bring them very close to us.
Yes, fantastic. Before we're handing, just let's go to short break and then we come back soon.
From the heart of the world, are you listening and enjoying Gugu Radio? No matter what, keep your faith and values. Keep your trust and empathy. Gugu Radio, the voice of future.
Yes, thank you very much, Gomer. We are nearly ending our program shortly. So
That's okay.
yes, what the last question is, I want to talk about the different business. Talk about the Equatoria Cultural Day. Will be on 27th of December this year in Melbourne, Victoria. As usually every 27 we celebrate the Equatoria Cultural Day. Can you tell me how it look like this is going to happen? You can tell us maybe in advance how the celebration could be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as far as Equatoria Day is concerned, it's a combination of many excellent wonders that usually occur once a year. We come together as a community, and more so as an organization, to rally behind the diversity that we have in inclusivity. For those who don't know, Equatoria as a region holds more than half of the entire population of the tribes of South Sudan in terms of the amount of tribes within a specific region. So not so much in population. So here in Victoria, we have, I think, close to 10 functional Equatoria sub-communities or tribes that are functional under the Equatoria banner. So this year we've had a lot of feedback from last year, and we're intending on implementing some of them. Obviously, there are some things that are beyond our control, but there are things that are within our control that we're intending on implementing. One and quite specific is we have a few surprises coming up, but our key element to a successful Equatoria Day is the inclusion of all our communities in performances, performance acts, and more importantly, in the sharing of our different cuisines and different cultural attires and so on. So Equatoria Day is looking very great. We're still in the planning stages and we're almost concluding it. So we look forward to Equatoria Day. As you guys have seen last year, we had more than 200 people, 300 people come to that event. In fact, it was so large that we had over 100 people outside because there was no spaces. So this year we looked for a better and greater Equatoria Day. And of course, your contribution in coming, in participating, is well welcomed, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, thank you very much. أنا بتكلم بعربي تجربة لأنه طبعا دي اللانجوج تاعنا فأنا داير أوري لمستمعين تاعنا اللي يسمعنا الآن في برنامج عندنا نعمله مع شارمن بتاع يوس بتاع إيكوتوريا كوميونيتي في ملبورن فيكتوريا. طبعا أنا ناقش حاجات كثير أنا ونسوا موضوع حاجة قاصل في ولاية هنا تاع ملبورن لأنه كثير قاصوا مشكلة عيال جي كربوا قاموا مشاكل في سكة وبقى بدك الخوف في الناس التانيين في محلات تاني لما اسمع كبارات ديل جي فكر إنه مثلا عيال تاعنا كله خلاص بقى دخل في شارع وبقى دخل وفعلا فانا اللي جو تشالنج سم تايم في مشاكل زي ده بالذات ليال تاني لما جروا في ذاك الشوبينج سنتر وفي محلات دي قاعد نومن زي ناس حراميه زي ايمون زي كانوا ودروا سرقوا حاجه تزول لكن هم جا سرقوا وماشوا اونسن زي ما تشامل جومير كلم قال كنا عامل ديفنس ليال دي اذا في زول قاعد يحاول ابيوس ومن يعني بطريقه ما كويس تعاينه ده كان راجل ولا كان مره شيل شوف جانا دي يعني زي جانا تاكي حتى لو ما قبيله تاكي انت كمان تتكلم تقول جانا ده عمل شنو انت تحاول تعمل انفستيجيشن علشان تعرف السبب انه ليه سكيورتي دي كويشن جانا دي بسؤالات دي لشنو عشان انت بقدر بعرفه مرات بحكم بالظلم لان يال تاني دي سام تايم ومن قد صرف تصرفات مثلا المايا او بيعمل حاجات طبعا هم ما عارفين ما قاموا شنو هم بيشوف هم في فريدوم كان دو وات ايفر نيد تو دو لكن هم بيعرف انه الناس قاعدين بأنا تاني انا الاسود زي ما قالوا نسو طبعا بعربي تاني تجربه فكومير انا طبعا في عربي تجربه انا بس داير انا بشكرك كثير في زمن تاكي معنا الليله في جوجل راديو ويتدخل ودي اخر كلام تاكي لناس تانا القاين تاسع شنو. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I will wrap it up with a few things. One, I would like to say that sometime within our community and within our society, we like to amplify bad news. We have been conditioned to listen to bad news, through newspapers, through social media, and so on. We have a lot of excellent and wonderful things happening with the young people, not just in Equatoria, but the greater South Sudan. Those are the stories we need to share as well. Have you realized that there's so many negative news that we like to share, or the news outlets like to share, but we seldomly celebrate and share those who are doing very wonderful things. Okay, and many of them are in our community. For example, we know Josephine, who is currently going to run, in the Paris modeling world. She's going to be opening, I think, one of the shows. That is a great achievement, and we're proud of that. We had a few months ago one of our young ladies, Eva, to join not one of among many, to join the military. And she's a servicewoman. That's a great achievement, and there are many more who have achieved many things. We should praise our young people for achieving great things, and we should approve of them, and we should not shy and stay away from these things. So that is my message to the community. Alini gul kalamat al kwaisin loita simi kabra kwais gulu. Don't keep it and say, oh, if I tell people will think Galian and Kibriya, I have pride or something. They kul kalam farik. This is all nonsense. Okay, if your child is doing something good, tell it to the world. Let the haters talk, and let the supporters support. Okay, this is one thing I can say. The other thing I would like to say also is, as far as our community is concerned, let's continue to uphold our unity. Our unity is quite important. I know that in every leadership, in every community, there's always small things that are happening, but let's not mind those things. Okay, I know that a lot of people may have their own different opinions. For example, me as a youth chairman or a youth president, maybe some people might say I'm not doing a good job, and it's okay. That's their feedback. I take it on board and I try to adjust and try to improve myself. But some people might say I'm doing a good job. That's also fine. What is important is we uplift each other, rather than try to tear each other down. Okay, so our unity is very paramount. That's my message to the community. And lastly, I would like to thank all the women in our community. Without our women, I don't think we would have a functional community, or we would have a functional office, to be more precise. The support of women throughout all these months, throughout the end of last year, and even as of current, last year we had a successful Equatorial Day because of them. Okay, they were the ones busy running up and down in the kitchen and doing so many things for us to have a memorable day, and they are still doing so. I would like to give a warm appreciation to our mothers, whatever they are, whether they are married, whether they are single, whether they are single mothers, whoever you are as mothers. I would like to thank all of you for your service. And of course, those men who are also working hard, I would like to thank them also. Sometimes we give so much praise to women and we forget that men exist. So we thank people like you, Simon Basha, for running a Google Radio. Without Google Radio, we won't be here.
Yeah, it's all right.
Or at least the message that you're trying to amplify won't reach the masses that you intend for it to reach. And it's reaching, obviously, a global audience, people all over Juba, Europe, America, and so on are listening to your studio. So we thank you also for your time and your efforts in reaching out to the Equatorial Youth Office to make this interview happen.
Okay, thank you very much, King
Thank you.
Comer from Melbourne, Victoria, and also Simon Basha from the studio Google Radio. I say bye-bye. We can see you next time. Bye-bye.
For all our listeners across the globe, be happy and secure with Google Radio, the voice of the future.